Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read on today, the solstice, December 21st, 2023. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card, we are starting our day off with today. What can I say? What can I say? If you know, you know. Like, we're starting the solstice with the Justice card. We've got balance. We've got balance coming in today. Beautiful balance. So everything today, the name of the game is going to be navigating and maintaining that point of balance. Masculine and feminine energy in divine union, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. We see that this is that pause point, and it's starting to feel like it almost is creating that feeling of frustration and pressure. This is something that has been a bit harder for the masculine right now to navigate than the feminine. Feminine's a little bit easier in terms of feeling that point of having to kind of wait and see on some things right now. But again, it's that point of stillness. It's finding the calm in the storm right now. It's allowing yourself that space and peace to find the balance within to allow you to be able to hold a point of consistency. Masculine and feminine energy doing this right now. This is talking a lot about that energetic work, because what we are seeing here, and especially this is why it's so hard right now for the masculine energy navigating this is a moment that you're putting into practice a lot of that energetic openness, that heart opening that you've been learning while being in connection with the feminine energy. And what is that? Well, that's the problem. It's not something that is reactive. It's something that you hold. It's something that you maintain. It's something that you don't even need to put pressure on. You just keep present. We see here that for the masculine energy in this modality, leading from your heart space right now, potentially trying to heal some unhealed karmic energy around you right now. What's hard was almost that point of observation that you were giving forth on something that you didn't know what the reaction would be. You didn't, in a way, and this is what the masculine and feminine in the divine union almost agreed upon, that pre-work leading to this moment. There was that moment of saying that you were putting things out into the universe, and you were almost saying to yourself, you're not doing it to get that point of reaction, that the success metric wasn't in what would come back. You were just putting forth in that way for the sake of recognizing that that is your being, that is your nature, that is something that is like the act of a gift is not a gift that you give for the sake of getting something back. It's just something that you give because it is in your nature to give it. So we see for masculine energy right now, something about this energetic moment of healing that you're trying to do around some circumstances or situations. It's that pause point, because the pause point is almost that moment of stillness. It's like when you drop something in a well and you're going like this to see if it's going to have the hope, the aspiration, and that's what it is, the hope, the response that you hope for, but that you've also kind of had to release to a certain extent, right? It's like releasing the expectation of the desire is almost allowing for that point of the manifesting just the hope instead of the anxiety. For masculine right now, working through that, and for feminine, that is a point of difficulty. And we see that energetically right now for the energy that's in the divine union frequency, you're just giving each other that point of support. You're giving each other that like gentle, constant support as you do so, because that's almost like allowing you to recognize that that's coming through at a space or place of feeling like the gesture itself was enough. The gift itself was enough. Moving forward in that way was enough. And for masculine right now, it's almost that point of deep healing that's coming, because it's allowing you that point of recognizing the act of emotional surrender. And almost, again, moving forward in this way, not for the sake of eliciting a reaction, which feels a little bit difficult for masculine, because it's not trying to have a reaction point to how you're doing things, but it's almost just that moment of recognizing that the point of like comfort is within the self. Masculine and feminine building that point right now, it can sometimes feel a little bittersweet, because it's almost feeling like that moment between like, anticipation and contentment. This is almost like finding that point of contentment in the point of anticipation, finding that balance point within the self, not allowing it. Again, we saw that deviation happening over the last few days, not allowing it to override your own gesture and how you're trying to move forward in this way, but almost finding that internal point of balance right now is what you're basically providing one another in the divine union frequency that is helping you maintain that consistency in the direction. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is all, everything I've been telling you right now has been about ratios. And one of the things that the energy right now is learning, that's coming into the divine union frequency, is that ratios are important. Judgment is important. We choose partners because of their judgment. That is what we want to assess. And this is what we're effectively seeing right now. Because again, for the energy right now coming into divine union, there is a lot of assessing right now and looking at the judgment of the other. Because as we see, there's a lot of energy around the energy coming into divine union right now that is pulling on them, almost creating distraction points. And some of that energy may even be feeling like it's not coming from a point or space of trying to tear something apart, but almost coming with like a good gesture, trying to come in, like trying to like come through with some like offering of positivity. But one of the things that we see right now that's really helping to amplify whether there's that energetic connection right now, whether that energetic exchange is one that feels positive or one that is going to be disruptive to the divine union coming into fruition right now, is that point that we observed about time, right? That point of 1 teaspoon, looking at these circumstances and situations and ratioing how much energy and import you give them versus where you put your time, effort, and energy right now, is all navigating in terms of moving in the state of space of joint decision. The energy that is staying in the divine union frequency right now is making choices together. They're coming into a point of judgment together. The decisions that they're making are coming through together. This is almost that point of, again, speaking from the we as a point of the I. So if anyone's coming through and trying to say like, oh, I'd like to do this, that moment of observing and being like, well, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this. It's helping amplify whether this energy is actually coming towards from a state or space of harmony, or if it's trying to create disharmony. And one of the things that we see here, and I observed this yesterday, is that point of observing and looking at anything that feels like any kind of energetic healing work that's trying to come towards a divine union forming right now, that feels like if the energy saying like, I need to heal this and we need to heal it right now and it can't wait. If this is energy that's looking at that and being like, if this is coming from a state or space of being truly in the guise of wanting to heal, if this is truly in that modality of healing, then why can it not wait? Why can it not wait? Because the point of the healing is the fact that the healing is not linear. So masculine and feminine right now are utilizing their powers of discernment together. If they're coming into the divine union frequency, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to ascertain if the energy that is coming towards them, even if it's coming from a point of not trying to tear the divine union apart, but kind of trying to come forward in a point of restoration, feminine and masculine are utilizing their powers of discernment by analyzing and seeing whether the energy that's truly trying to come forward in a positive way is able to navigate on the slowing down of the timeline that the energy in the divine union is implementing around circumstances and situations right now. If there's energy that's trying to come towards a divine union that's healing right now, and it's almost like trying to pull on one person or another, being like, I need to meet with you right now. If there's energy right now that's almost like creating this space or place and being like, why does this have to be now? Where's all the rush? What's the rush? If there's energy right now, and I will point out there's some energy that potentially is falling out right back into separation over this. If this is energy that is seeing energy that's coming towards them and saying something can't wait, something needs to be healed now, and the masculine and feminine are saying like, but why now? And the energy is effectively, that's almost the energy almost revealing, if they cannot slow things down, that it is because they are trying to disrupt the divine union from forming. Now we're seeing here that there may be some energy that is pulled back into separation right now, particularly if this is a moment that there isn't a point of unified determination, that moment of mutually deciding what to do. This is either pulling energy together right now and firming up the divine union, or it's separating it back apart, because it is that moment right now that is like the energy on both sides of the divine union is almost equal. Welcome to the solstice, right? And it's this moment about how you move, what direction you fall into here, that is showing the value of the ratio. So a lot of things potentially coming to the head today as it relates to circumstances or situations, and paying attention to where one puts their time, effort, care, and attention on these situations, particularly if they're pulling away from the divine union frequency, is almost amplifying whether these energies are going to remain in divine union or if they're going to fall back out into separation. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is the discernment that we see that feminine and masculine are utilizing right now as it relates to trying to come into divine union. And it is going to feel very different depending on where you are on those. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Feminine energy is utilizing the active discernment, implementing the power of the Mercury retrograde energy, because feminine energy is very much overwhelmed to a certain extent, putting a lot of effort right now into practical circumstances and situations, potentially even bowing out of things that are demanding too much of their attention. And we see here that for the masculine energy right now that is moving towards the feminine in this way, you are potentially also mirroring the feminine in terms of recognizing and seeing that this is a feminine energy that is potentially utilizing practical obligations to protect their heart space. Protecting their heart space via those situations and circumstances. It's not that the feminine isn't being authentic about those things. It's the fact that the feminine is finding that there's a convenience point right now in the fact that the work that they need to do during the Mercury retrograde is a further guarding of their own heart. We see that for a lot of the masculine energy and separation right now that's trying to come into a space or place of healing with feminine, one of the things that's helping you forward in this way right now is almost identifying and recognizing the difference between moving via your own timeline right now, or being able or having the capacity and desire to slow things down, to meet feminine where they're at, to effectively almost, even if that means like doing nothing with feminine, almost being like that level and degree of eagerness to be with the feminine energy and almost do nothing, is almost amplifying your own desire to potentially come into divine union with feminine, because again, it's almost turning down other opportunities just for the opportunity of being able to hold space with the feminine energy, is amplifying your own desire to move into divine union. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is I'm not surprised to see this either, because this is what we've been seeing over the last week. There's been energy right now that has been triggering masculine and feminine energy, even in the divine union frequency. This has been heavy energy this week. There's been a lot to be navigated. We even saw the possibility. Remember, I brought up that even for the energy right now in the divine union, that wait or see, that anticipation can bring up, and especially for the masculine energy right now, unhealed coping mechanisms, bad modalities of thought, things that do not necessarily build that point of healing, but start to pull you out of your own high frequency. It's like those things start to niggle away at you as you're at that state or space where you're trying to maintain a point of holding that level or degree of strength and security. Now, one of the things that we're seeing right now for masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency is that point of balance as it relates to where you're putting your time, effort, and energy. Remember when I said yesterday that point of amplification as it relates to having those points and degrees of looking at things right now and asking oneself if you are in that space or place of allowing that unhealthy energy to come through, allowing those things that do not feel like they're supportive, building on those points of instability, as opposed to coming into those spaces and places of healing right now. It's that point of observation that we're effectively seeing right now that is almost creating this moment or opportunity wherein we are identifying whether you are allowing those unhealthy coping mechanisms to override, or if you're allowing that to be a point of balance. And it is feeling very difficult at this time. It's feeling very hard because what we're effectively identifying at this time is almost that moment or that observation in feeling one's own tendencies coming to the surface, but also being able to navigate them, also being able to find the balance point within. Masculine and feminine right now in the divine union frequency are effectively helping one another through that work by coming into a state or space of healing. Now, masculine and feminine that are coming into the divine union frequency, what we're effectively identifying right now is almost that point or space wherein the outside energy, the energy that's outside the divine union frequency, is putting that pressure on the divine union frequency. And it is that moment, and even some of this energy right now feels like it's coming in a positive way. It feels like it's potentially harmless. But one of the things that we're identifying and experiencing right now is that moment that we are seeing that's allowing for that point of observation, looking at something and almost seeing and asking oneself, is that coming through in a state or space of actually being harmless? Or is there something here that feels like it may be unhealthy or impactful to the formation of the divine union? And what we're effectively seeing at this time is almost that moment of observation and recognizing through the act of discernment whether something is actually coming in, building balance, building support, building security, or if this is a moment or observation wherein that energy is actually coming through because it feels like it's motivated by outside reasons. It doesn't feel like it's potentially coming in with the best of intentions. Masculine and feminine energy right now that are staying in the divine union frequency are effectively amplifying through the act of discernment, and by slowing things down, utilizing the Mercury retrograde to their advantage, seeing if this energy is willing to match the timeline, or if it sends it scurrying away, if it sends it running in the opposite direction, if it sends it moving away, because masculine and feminine are saying like, well, listen, if you're coming towards us with the best intentions, and again, utilizing the we, if you're coming towards us with the best intentions, then that should not be something that feels like it has a deadline on it. A good intention never has a deadline on it. A good intention is an open-ended invitation. It's not an RSVP situation. So what we're effectively seeing here is almost, again, if there's energy that's coming forward right now to try to heal with masculine and feminine, this is that, and there's a feeling right now of anxiety as to whether that energy feels like it is productive and positive for the sake of the divine union forming, or if it may be coming towards them right now with the lack of intentionality. This is the act of discernment that's being implemented to help recognize what feels like it is actually fostering a supportive environment, or if it's just more on its own path and its own direction. And the energy that's staying in the divine union frequency right now is implementing that discernment to help articulate what feels like it is productive versus what feels like it's not. Some energy right now potentially moving out into separation because of this. Some energy right now, if this is a moment or opportunity where this is a moment where rather than moving in unified choice, if there's something about, like, again, someone having some kind of like, peace offering or something positive being brought to a divine union, and one energy wants to move forward towards it and the other one's saying no, if this pulls them apart, if one's like, I'm not going to let that opportunity go, I'm not going to let this go, this is almost that moment that we see this is falling back into separation, because again, the lack of ability to move together, to make that unilateral choice, is almost showing that even if something comes through a positive gesture, it was enough to effectively pull the energy into separation, right? This is like the gift that's like, this is like the gift that's not a gift, right? Masculine and feminine in separation right now, this is that moment or opportunity that we're effectively identifying, wherein we are seeing that point and that optics right now, feminine is utilizing their own powers of discernment, as it were, to navigate the energy around them, to help discern, again, whether the energy is coming towards them from the best of intentions, the desire to come into divine union, or if it's only moving via their own personal desires or motivations. How is feminine navigating between the fact that feminine feels like there's some masculine energy around them that gives every indication or desire, or has a good way of communicating and saying to feminine that they want divine union, but they don't actually understand what it is. Or it's just wordplay to be able to get into contact with feminine. Feminine is utilizing the Mercury retrograde and slowing things down to their timeline, almost coming into a space or place of almost articulating a masculine energy and being like, I'm not fun. I'm not fun. If you're looking for fun, go somewhere else. I'm not fun. So this is almost what the feminine energy is almost utilizing right now as an act of discernment, or I don't have time to be fun. And this is again how feminine is helping to amplify whether this is feminine energy that feels like the masculine is truly motivated to be towards the feminine, for a desire to be towards the feminine, as opposed to wanting to serve their own interests, wanting to serve their own desires, wanting to serve their own needs. Because feminine is looking at feminine, sees masculine, being like, that's okay. I'd like to be with the boring part of you. I'd like to be with the part of you that's like unpleasant. I'd like to be with the part of you that's humdrum. This is almost feminine energy being like, okay, now we're on to something. Now we're seeing something, because this is feminine that's seeing a masculine that utilizes that ability of balance, utilizes that ability of being able to navigate their own desires and balance them out by being present, holding space, even if it's not necessarily a fulfillment of a desire. Masculine energy in separation right now, you're mirroring the feminine in this way. And this is harder work for you because, again, a part of this is hard for the masculine, because the masculine, you're feeling that anxiety point of potentially fearing that you're barking up the wrong tree. This could be a moment for masculine that may feel hard, because it's almost that moment for masculine in looking at something, much like the energy of the masculine and feminine that are already in divine union, that moment of giving forth something and feeling the anxiety about whether something is going in the direction that you would actually aspire it to go, or whether there's something about the energy of the feminine not being interested, or not being able, or not feeling like that desire degree to you to a certain extent, which is almost, again, it's also bothering you because it's almost that moment right now for masculine where it's like your own doubts, your own fears are coming in. Because it's almost, again, a moment of, again, it's almost like the feminine is not saying to the masculine, like, I don't want to be with you. It's almost feminine being like, I'm too busy. I've got too much to do. I've got to focus on me. And this is masculine. It's almost, again, having to put themselves out there. Having to, again, almost offer the offer, like the latent offer, and saying, would you like me there too? Can I hold space for you? Can we do these things together? And for masculine right now in this modality, this is hard because we see here that having to do that feels like it's pushing against your own level or degree of vulnerability. But you're recognizing that that is an internal fear. That is an internal anxiety. That is facing one's own doubts and fears about one's own self, right? And that in itself, in a way, feels like you're almost conquering your own fears or conquering your own unhealed coping mechanisms or bad modalities of thought as you try to bring that point of consistency and balance into play. Third card in our 5-card spread, we like this energy today. We've got here our World card, masculine and feminine energy in divine union, in divine partnership. What we effectively see here is the energy is, again, masculine and feminine. This is that moment. It's not the fact that we see the energy in the divine union. It's not the fact that you're completely healed. You're never going to be completely healed. Masculine and feminine. It's not like you get into divine union frequency and suddenly everything is sunshine and rainbows at every moment. It's that point of recognizing that, you're always going to be uncovering more of those bad modalities of thought, more of that unhealthy, of those unhealed energies of like mental doubt, all of these things, these unhealed coping mechanisms, bad modalities of thought, unhealed karmic connections. It's not that they go away. It's the fact that you find a way to flow through them. And it's going to feel a lot like water off a duck's back. That point of observation, but not reaction. Masculine and feminine right now in divine union are navigating and they're learning this ability. They're just letting themselves, again, flow through it. This will pass. It's like feeling that, just being like, this will pass. It's going to be a moment. That bad thought, wait for it to pass. Observe it. Think about a different thought. That unhealed coping mechanism coming to the surface, observe it. Recognize it. See it. Put your point at it. Say, there it is. Okay, I see it within the self. Now let it flow, right? Coming into that state, that unhealed, and the only difference here is when we see some of these unhealed karmic connections coming up, This is masculine and feminine right now, even doing this path work for themselves. Those unhealed karmic connections, looking at it and saying, is this a space or place we can bring balance to it? Is this ready to heal? No? Okay, just let it go. Just let it go, right? It's not even a moment of trying to chase after the unhealed karmic energy to see if you can heal it right now. It's almost that point in saying, like, are you ready to come in? Are you ready to heal? No? Okay, that's fine too. You can go do you. Because it's almost that moment of maintaining the flow state even through any of those hurdles or obstacles right now. But again, the divine union, freeing up, being in the divine union frequency allows you to start doing this work more on the internal, okay? Now, masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is happening not intentionally right now. This is happening potentially as the divine union is forming, and this is going to potentially pull some energy right back into separation. Right back into separation. And for some of the energy right now, it's going to feel really frustrating if this is what's pulling you out of separation, because this is going to be someone being like, same old song, different tune, same old song, different tune, because this is almost this moment right now that's all about the ratio. It's not the fact that there isn't the divine union forming here. Here's our divine union. It's coming into formation. And what is showing up as the divine union is about to show up to like cause that moment of momentary potential disruption. Even if it's not, and again, I have to stress, even if these situations and circumstances are not intentionally coming forward in this way, it's still problematic because it's all about the energy and the care and consideration as it relates to where someone's putting and is invested in terms of their priority, their time, effort, and energy and attention right now. This is being amplified. Whatever is outside the partnership right now that is causing a friction point, it doesn't matter if its intentionality is pure or not. It has to do with the fact that it's a friction point. The friction point is a friction point, even if the friction point is well-intentioned, okay? It's like called a white elephant for a reason. You know, like masculine and feminine to a certain extent are navigating this like space or place right now due to the fact that, again, there are situations and circumstances that are very triggering outside of the divine union. And coincidentally, they're popping up just as the divine union is starting to really take steam, starting to build that momentum. Masculine and feminine that are navigating this together, you are learning the exact same lesson that I just told you the energy in the divine union is doing. What is the divine union energy doing, even though they move towards this with a bit more intentionality around unhealed coping mechanisms, bad modalities of thought, unhealthy, unhealed karmic connections outside of the partnerships? There's a moment of, again, mutually, the key word is mutually agreeing how to address them or letting them just flow off, looking at something and saying, is this something we need to address together or is something that we just need to like move past? And masculine and feminine that are coming into staying in the divine union, you're learning this ability right now. You're learning to not necessarily let this break you apart, but instead looking at these as problems or circumstances and lessons that you can work through together. If this is something where someone's going, I know they just want to talk to me, and the other person's like, please don't. Like if there's that point of conflict that's arising and one person's insisting and the other person's not, congratulations, you're back in separation. Even the fact that you're like, even you may not have even like moved forward to do it, but it's the fact that you couldn't build that sense, you couldn't build that ability to unilaterally discuss something in the sense of recognizing that you need to be of one mind. The divine union is of one mind. If you didn't try to put the effort in to be one mind on this, then it's immediately a disruption point that pulls you back into separation. If feminine's seeing this right now, it almost becomes a flip-flop effect, because this is potentially, if this is masculine that's letting some kind of like outside priority pull them away from the divine union, and this is masculine going, I just need to address this, but I have to do it on my own. This is feminine being like, yeah, you have to do it on your own because we're now in separation. because you just let this, it worked. It worked. You didn't even have to go yet. It already worked because you just showed me that you're willing to like do something against what I'm asking you to do. We're back in separation. We're not on one mind here. You know, it's like that counter note. And again, this isn't saying that there aren't moments that there could be hesitancy, someone being like, you know, I don't know about this, but the difference, the opposition factor of someone saying, please don't, and the other person going, I am, well, then it doesn't even matter if you do, because that's you kind of, again, whatever it was, it's pulled you back into separation. The work has already happened. Now, masculine and feminine that are in separation right now, this is why feminine energy is potentially staying right now, especially if this is energy that just had something like this occur that just led them into separation. This is why we see that the feminine energy is just in this moment of just trying to vibe for themselves right now. Because it's almost that moment of feeling that point of frustration. And again, something having to do with the fact that the feminine right now, feminine's working on finding that internal balance from within right now. Feminine is almost moving very much in the state or space of saying, I know where the safe space is. I know. Feminine's like, I know what heart space I can trust. And it's this one. Like, that's a feminine going, it's this one. And feminine, as we see, unfortunately, and I know this is really hard for the healed masculine energy right now to see feminine in this way. This is, again, the same thing I said yesterday coming into play, which is feminine adopting a position right now that the energy around them is almost like guilty until proven innocent, if you will, because feminine energy is just moving in this state or space right now where like that's what they're doing in order to heal, because there's a moment, and especially for some of the feminine energy right now, where again, it's like almost the feminine feeling the frustration of masculine, not recognizing potentially the difference between them saying that something is harmless versus feminine recognizing that it's not, right? That's almost feminine right now looking at things right now. And again, that's why in a way, this is feminine staying very much in their own space right now, because this is feminine trying to heal from situations and circumstances where it's like the harmlessness of something was the banality, right? So for feminine, this is almost feminine being like the frustration of a feminine seeing something like this and not being able to like articulate and amplify it, because the frustration point comes in the fact of a feminine saying like, I just went into separation because like I told someone not to do something and they said, well, I can't help doing it. And it's like, well, if you can't help doing it, then like we're not in divine union. You're just doing whatever you want. You know, like you're amplifying that we are in separation, right? Masculine energy right now in separation. It's that moment or that situation that we're effectively seeing right now, wherein masculine energy in separation, there is that moment or that modality where you may be feeling and seeing the fact that the feminine energy in separation right now, and this is what is potentially triggering right now for masculine, is almost very happy to be in, they're vibing. Feminine energy in separation right now is almost like it is just vibing. Like they're just going right back into it. And for the problem with masculine, it is that observation factor and being like, I want to get close to this energy, but they're vibing at such a point that they're very conscientious of discerning about who they let towards them, because they don't want anyone to ruin their vibe. And I feel like for the masculine, it's almost masculine having this moment and being like, and almost recognizing like the healing path and being like, I understand why they worry that I'm going to kind of mess the vibe up. And this is almost masculine saying, and this is why we see a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now, moving through a state or space of, again, a feminine being like, I can't, I'm too busy. I can't do this. This is why masculine's almost like in separation is like, no, can we just hang out? And if feminine's like, I have all this stuff to do. Masculine's like, I'll just stay in the same room as you do it. Because this is literally masculine trying to amplify to feminine right now. That like, my intentions are so pure I'm not moving you out of your vibe. I just want to be in proximity to your vibe. Can I just be can I be in proximity to the vibe to show you, like, almost like, coming closer, like, can I just show you that I'm not going to mess up? I'm not going to mess with your vibe. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today. I don't want to laugh. It's not funny, but it's sweet. You know what I mean? Okay, fourth card in our card for today. The Lovers in its reversal. Okay. Masculine and feminine energy right now. This is why we see that a lot of this work right now, and I need to stress, what have I been saying over the fact that there is this point? I keep warning, this has been a very triggering week, okay, for the energy, even in the divine union frequency, okay? It's been feeling like there's a lot of weight or pressure that's been coming through right now. And I gotta say, it's either internal, your own internal triggers rising up, your own doubts and fears, or they're outside situations that are putting pressure on the divine union energy. And I'm saying that even for the energy at the heart of the divine union, so you know that it's heavy energy, okay? Because it's like a lot of this is almost going to feel like those doubts, those fears, those anxieties rising up to the surface within you right now, especially, again, masculine having some of those feelings heavily right now, especially because we saw that there was something about the way you proceeded and feeling a lack of confidence to a certain extent around it yesterday that may have risen to the surface. For masculine and feminine right now, there is that moment that may feel, and this is something that has to be navigated even for the energy in the divine union frequency, the fact that you're battling your own personal battles here. There's a part of this that we recognize that even when in divine union, there is that separateness of having to maintain your own flow state, right? There's that unfathomable bridge, that uncrossable territory in having to navigate your own flow state while also having to navigate all of those unhealed coping mechanisms, all those bad modalities of thought, all those unhealed karmic connections that start to try to interrupt your own journey. We see that even for masculine and feminine right now, one of the problems about it is something about that journey right now does feel like it's somewhat isolating, even if you are in divine union, which is why I keep saying this week, let's make sure you're not amplifying the feelings of anxiety, but instead giving each other support and saying, I see your battle. I see your journey. I see what you're going through. And almost saying to one another, I can't battle that for you. I can't do that inner work. That's your journey. I just want you to know I'm right there with you every step of the way. That is how we see that the energies are almost balancing. Because like I said, the energy in the divine union is almost like a wheel. And it's like when you're in that state, much like something that's already in motion, you don't need to put a lot of work into it. You just need to give it a little encouragement. You got to give it a little tap on the shoulder while we go through it to say, I see what you're doing. I appreciate. Keep going. You got this. Giving that gentle pat is all you really need, which in a way is all you really can give right now, because everybody internally right now is really going through it. Okay, that little bit can have all the difference, right? Masculine and also because, and this is a problem for a lot of the energy that was in the divine union, you literally just did this to some energy that was unhealed. You did that to some energy that you're trying to heal. You gave it a little bit of one of these to see if it could come into healing. That unhealed karmic energy around you. Those bridges you're trying to mend. Those bridges you're trying to build. Those fences you're trying to mend. Mend fences, build bridges, either way. Okay, masculine and feminine. Okay, but it's still hard. And it feels like, again, it's going to feel like you're kind of in a balance point because it's like heavy work, but also feeling balanced as you do heavy work, right? Hitting that flow. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency. This is all about where you put that time, effort, energy, and attention right now. Because again, it's and what we are seeing right now is for the energy that is staying in the divine union frequency, utilizing the act of discernment. Even if it relates to energy that is coming towards the divine union, seeming like it's got the best of intentions, but it's already creating a friction point around the divine union, right? It's that navigation point of discernment, making sure that you're moving from one mind, making sure that you're making choices together as to how to navigate those difficult situations, that is going to arbitrate and determine whether that is a moment that solidifies you staying in the divine union, especially if that energy has the best of intentions and trying to move it back into the time, trying to slow it down on the timeline. Especially if that energy is trying to put like a clock on something, especially if the energy is trying to say like, you know, I'm here in peace, but I'm only here in peace until like the 24th of December. And then my peace is going out the window. Like if there's a now and never quality to like the peace that someone's trying to bring forward, well, that's all you need to identify in terms of recognizing whether someone is actually like moving towards someone right now from a state of trying to, again, build bridges or mend fences versus energy that is doing so because there's some kind of another reason, or because they're trying to disrupt the divine union, right? So we're effectively seeing here that for the energy coming into the divine union right now, navigating these points, whether you're able to do it by one mind, making that choice and saying, this is not a you problem. This isn't like your unhealed karmic energy. This isn't my unhealed karmic energy. It's almost that moment of saying, this is now our unhealed karmic energy because your problems are my problems. That is that moment that is amplifying right now, whether this is coming and staying in divine union or whether it's going to start tearing it back into separation. And that point of observing and allowing something to, again, how are you doing it? You're seeing if the energy can accommodate the divine union. If the energy is willing to make accommodations for the divine union, then that's all the clarity that you need. That's all the clarity that's needed here. And I will say, there's going to be some energy right now that's going to fall into separation over this. Going to fall into separation over this. You heard it here first, okay? But if you do, this is why. Even if it came through someone saying like, this is even potentially a lot of people saying like, I think this is harmless, and someone being like, no, I don't. Even having that moment of not navigating something and coming into that point of recognition and saying, I appreciate your stand. I appreciate how you feel. I'm going to take that into consideration. Let's determine what to do together. If instead this pulls you into two different directions and someone being, I'm going to do this, well, you do that, you know, like building that, like it's already pulled you into separation. Okay? Energy that's in separation, this is exactly why the feminine energy right now in separation is almost at a point where it's like, it feels a lot like the feminine energy in separation is almost like alone then. This is feminine energy that's almost like, I'm doing this alone, and almost like almost specifically saying in separation, I'm doing it alone, like making the intentional choice, because feminine is building a level or degree of cynicism right now with masculine, especially if this just happened, because this is feminine that feels to a certain extent a level or degree of frustration in not seeing enough masculine energy heal, feeling like masculine energy is too easily drawn off the path of divine healing by distraction energy, by unhealed coping mechanisms, by bad modalities of thought and unhealed karmic connections. This is feminine energy that's almost at a point right now, even in separation, where they just kind of want to throw their hands up. But what we're seeing for the feminine right now is this is not a feminine that's throwing their hands up in despair. This is a feminine energy throwing their hands up in frustration and saying, like, it's not even despair. It's them saying, it's fine. I can do this myself. I don't need it. And in a way, I will point out for feminine, some of that is a bit of your own unhealed. I know you don't want to hear me say this, feminine. Even that, like that moment too, that modality, even feminine's like, and I need to heal that too. Like this is feminine going, and now I need to heal my own cynicism to partnership. I know, like feminine's almost also observing, feminine's almost catching themselves as they do it, if you will, like in that moment being, I know, like trying to find a balance point in even their own methodology, which is why feminine is taking this moment right now and just saying like, I have me time. I need me time. But again, the masculine energy that's healing right now, You may be observing a feminine that's going, I need me time, and being like, no, you don't need me time. You're going through me time because of a lack of trust. You're going through me time because of a point of frustration. And this is why we see now that a lot of the masculine energy that's on the same healing journey with feminine, if you've done this work, if you've seen your own potentiality or situations or circumstance in the past when you were pulled away from the frequency because of all of these like opportunities that you didn't want to let go on, picking up, filling your pockets with pebbles that got you distracted on the way to like where you were going. This is that moment for masculine that like, again, is almost you recognizing them and seeing them as such. And for a lot of the masculine energy, the reason you might be now also mirroring the feminine is because you're also looking at them like that. You're looking at these opportunities. You're looking at these small things. You're looking at them as small. You're looking at them as unhealed. And it's that moment that you're almost seeing masculine energy is seeing how all of those little things, it's like, and again, it's going to feel like a little bit of like, like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like one of them, over and over and over and over, all those little choices, all those micro movements effectively have almost shown in a way that you're almost seeing your own path work in terms of seeing how all of those micro movements potentially added up to almost avoiding or creating a space or place where a partner divine union was not possible. But also that recognition point and seeing them as such is creating a point of personal balance within yourself right now that's helping you come into a flow state, having you come into a better understanding, which is why we potentially see that a lot of the masculine energy that's also healing right now is almost saying to the feminine, if you don't want to do anything, like, I would love to do nothing with you. Like, this is literally feminine saying, like, I will do whatever you want to do. I want to match your flow state. Because this is feminine and masculine energy that's almost recognizing in a way how all of those things around them are also kind of serving as distractions that are now potentially coming through as the blockers that are preventing you from being able to move into the divine union frequency. Continuing on this fifth card in our 5-card spread for today, before we start getting clarification on these, is beautiful energy today coming through in the divine union. We've got your strength. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. It's not the fact that we are seeing that this isn't a difficult moment. A lot of that energy from the past, a lot of that unhealed stuff is rising up to the surface today. And it's challenging. It's challenging because it creates those doubts and fears, even doubts and fears in the connection. Even for the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency right now, there's that moment of the internal path work, feeling like that anxiety about being able to maintain the divine union frequency. It's almost like, and again, and I have to stress, this is actually something that also needs to be navigated, okay? Because some of the masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency are almost feeling like their own anxiety and fear on relying or putting too much effort and energy on support on the divine union, right? And some of this is almost unhealthy too right now, because we see here that some of the energy even in divine union is taking a little bit of that go it alone mentality for fear of putting their burdens on the divine union, right? It's a push-pull that's happening right now between masculine and feminine, feeling the degree or feeling that sense of knowing that someone is there, right? This is some fine work here. This is some fine work. This is putting that level or degree into recognizing the fine line that one must walk between knowing that someone is there at any time you need them to be versus not putting all of that weight and energy on someone. Finding what is like, this is the path work that's happening for the energy in the divine union frequency, which is, again, that it's like, and it's about ratios. It's almost feeling like the love is expressed in the ratio, in the sense of saying, I know you're there for whatever I need you to be, but that's exactly why I don't want to rely on you. That's exactly why I don't want to put pressure. The gift of love isn't coming through on this in the sense of someone saying, like, anything you need, I'm here. It's not someone like utilizing that to like every umpteenth degree and leaving someone drained and exhausted. That's not divine union. It's not someone being like, I know you got this, so I'm just going to leave you on your own. Like, that's not divine union either. This is the Goldilocks effect, which is that beautiful ratio of balance between knowing that someone is there for you at a moment's notice, but almost amplifying exactly why you would never navigate or utilize that unless you truly need to. Hitting that balance point right now is going to be a little difficult and discerning right now, for even for the energy in divine union, because it's almost again amplifying the anxiety and fear of putting too much weight on the divine union frequency itself. Now, masculine and feminine that are coming in, and it's requiring an act of personal strength, because some of it does feel like that point of anxiety rising to the surface. And gentle support is what is needed at this time for all of the energies in that vibration. It's almost like, again, it's almost like just that hand. It's just that pat saying like, you've got this. And again, the reason you've got this is because if you don't got it, you know I've got it. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost that like, knowing like, knowing you've got that backup, it's almost like helping right now the energy take that, like find that extra force of energy. It's like literally creating more energy, because it's just that subtle energy that you need to give to another person, just in the reminder that you're there. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is taking much more strength, because this is a moment that we see that the outside energy, even if it doesn't mean to be like that, there's something here about the pressure outside the divine union. It's not that it's trying to pull the divine union away. It feels almost like a subtle knife to a certain extent. It feels almost like something that shouldn't create a problem point that is. It's almost that moment now that like something harmless is potentially tearing something apart. Because again, even if it's harmless, if it's not harmless, it's not harmless. If it's creating a fissure point, then there's nothing that's harmless. The what harmless is subjective. And what's being navigated right now for the energy in divine union is that moment of looking at something and saying, and almost having that point of recognition, and almost realizing and saying, nothing is harmless if the other energy feels like it's not. If the other energy doesn't feel like something's harmless, then everything needs to stop to identify and interpret what feels comfortable. Right? That's that moment. Again, something about the pressure being put, and it is requiring that act of discernment right now for the energy coming into divine union. Because again, it's that moment or modality of potentially one person looking at something and saying this is harmless, and the other person saying, well, I don't think that's the case. Being able to move forward with the similar mind, and it is requiring a bit of compromise. It's requiring that ability to find that balance point between, potentially, is requiring a lot of strength between energy right now, because it is, again, motivated by the ability for the divine energy coming into divine union to recognize that the most important thing to be able to maintain the divine union frequency is to be able to move forward of one mind. And sometimes moving forward of one mind requires a level or degree of compromise. And recognizing that level or degree of compromise right now is almost, again, potentially adjusting things, even potentially slowing things down on a timeline, especially if there's something that like is demanding the time, effort, energy of attention right now. This is almost that moment of saying that, utilizing that act of discernment and saying, well, if something is actually harmless, then a harmless thing tomorrow is going to be the same thing as a harmless thing today. Time will not erode something that is coming towards the divine union energy in a harmless fashion. Utilizing the Mercury retrograde to the advantage of what you're trying to discern as it relates to whether something is harmless or not. Some energy is going to fall right back into separation over this, because if something here can't be slowed down, then it's amplification that something is not harmless. If something can't be slowed down, if there's something here that someone is expressing and saying, no, it can't wait, well, then in a way, it's almost that amplification of something that isn't coming through in a harmless fashion, or something that feels like it has an agenda. And for some of the energy, this is going to slide you right back out into separation if you can't make a mutual mind as to how to address it. Feminine energy seeing that right now. It's like that value point and seeing something that cannot wait. Something that literally feels like it cannot wait, but that is affecting the partnership. That is that moment of feminine just saying, I've seen what I need to see. Or vice versa with masculine. Now, and feminine and masculine almost identifying and articulating that point and saying, if it can't move at the speed of the divine union, if it can't match the divine union frequency, then it's almost dissolving the divine union, because it's speaking of a priority that has the priority outside of the divine union frequency. It's someone saying the priority is there, it's not here. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, this is why we see that the feminine energy right now in separation is so much in that like go it alone mentality, if you will. Almost like building that point of stoicism, almost to the point that makes it hard for them to navigate and be able to come into divine union right now. And feminine almost sees it about themselves. We appreciate the fact that the feminine sees. Feminine even realizes right now that go it alone needs to be dialed back a notch. Feminine even sees it right now, but feminine's almost like at a moment right now, especially, I gotta say, especially if this is feminine energy that just moved back into separation over situations like this. Like, this is why we see the feminine energy is almost like in that space of potentially throwing their hands up right now, because there's almost a moment of feminine being like, they're the energy around them is almost like and again, this is why for the feminine, in a way, this is why the feminine might be really frustrated if you find them in this modality. This is feminine either looking towards masculine energy in this modality right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, saying they're either blind or they're lying. They're either blind, like it's almost like that moment of feminine looking at something and being like, this person is either blind to something, they can't see something that's right in front of their face, or there's something here that they're not being open about. This is why the feminine right now is so much in that point of polarity. Because if this is a moment that moved feminine into separation and said, well, if something is actually harmless, it can wait, and the masculine around them said, no, it can't, then this is feminine saying, you just articulated that this isn't harmless and that this takes priority over the needs or the one-mindedness that we need to maintain to be able to be in divine union. So this is feminine energy that, again, is very much at that space or place that is feeling very much like feminine is trying to go it alone right now, because this is feminine that doesn't trust the motivation of the energy around them. It's almost the feminine looking at a lot of the energy around them right now and saying, I still, like, the jury's still out. Like, feminine's almost like the jury's still out as to whether someone actually can see the fact, like whether they were completely blind to the fact that something like that was occurring, or if someone wants to intentionally ignore that because it serves their own needs. This is why we see that the feminine energy is like, I'm just going to go it alone, because it's almost feminine looking at that and saying both of those options are like, no, like they're both blockages to divine union. Like, someone needs to either show an ability of having good judgment, or they can't be in a space or place of pretending that they don't see something that is happening. So this is feminine being like, in both of those options, that's a nope. So we see here that this is why we find the feminine so much in that point of personal autonomy right now, because this is feminine being like, alone then. I'll just maintain this vibration alone. For masculine seeing this right now, recognizing and finding a feminine in this modality, a lot of the masculine energy that's on the healing journey may be feeling a lot of frustration right now, because again, you get it. You get it. You understand why. You may even be looking at your own path work right now and from the past, and suddenly seeing how those opportunities, felt like you were chasing fireflies. For a lot of the masculine energy and separation, there's a moment. This is why we see that this is a lot of that inner child healing that's happening. This is masculine being like, I was chasing fireflies. I was chasing fireflies when I should have been, I should have been on a treasure hunt, but instead I was chasing fireflies. And so for masculine in this modality right now, it's that point of having to almost feel like they need to amplify your own healing journey at this point. It's almost that moment of trying to amplify to the feminine and saying, I don't chase fireflies anymore. I'm not a firefly chaser. I'm not going to be distracted by fireflies. I'm going to stay, and this is feminine, feminine is almost like sitting there right now in separation, being like, taking off anything shiny, being like, I am not a firefly. This is feminine being like, no. And this is literally feminine, the masculine is trying to approach feminine and saying, like, feminine's like, I want to amplify to you, I am not a firefly. I am the most boring, I am the most like dull, like this is feminine almost like literally being like, nope, can't stress you, not a firefly. No, go. No, go. And this is masculine being like, I don't do that. I don't want that. And feminine being like, you sure there's a lot of fireflies here? And this is masculine almost having to say to feminine, nope, this is exactly where I want to be. I want to be boring. I want to be so boring right here with you. I just want to be in your, like the masculine's almost saying like now, the healed masculine being like, your proximity is enough. Your proximity is enough. Okay. Continuing to get clarification between our Justice card in combination with our Devil card. May I please have one card to clarify? What did I say? This is a feminine being like, I'm good. Like this is feminine. This is feminine, almost literally. This is very funny because this is, I'm laughing because again, this is feminine. I can see the higher. So this is feminine, literally almost being in that state or space of almost like, again, this is how feminine seeing a lot of the energy around them right now, which is almost like feminine has this like opinion or view right now of masculine energy for one reason or another. And this is the thing with the firefly aspect. It's like the masculine energy around the feminine right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is feminine almost coming into a point of, this is how feminine's healing this right now for themselves. This is feminine going, masculine energy is chasing around fireflies. And they're either chasing around fireflies because they absolutely love fireflies, they're bug fanatic, or they don't realize that they're just bugs. They don't realize that that they just light up and then they close. They just light up and then they close. This is literally feminine being like, either way, I'm fine with it. It's almost feminine being like, if someone wants to spend their time doing that, this is literally feminine going, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? This is almost feminine saying, but I'm certainly not going to condone it. And I'm certainly not going to invest in it. I'm certainly not going to participate in it. This is feminine literally just being like, I'm going to stay in my own zone and just continue to just do my thing and let them go chase and do whatever they want. This is literally the mentality that the feminine's taking to this and being like, and this is feminine almost being like, the feminine being like so much like water off the duck's back at this point. This is feminine being like, I could not care less. And this is feminine almost like literally if the masculine's trying to come towards him right now, this is feminine almost being like, there's no fireflies in here. There's there's none. Nope, I don't have any. There's none in here. You got to go somewhere else. There aren't any here. And masculine being like, and then healed masculines being like, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. And feminine being like, I'm boring. I'm doing all these boring things. This is masculine going, the masculine energy and separation that's doing this is almost being like, yeah, I used to do that too. I know. And this almost masculine coming through that healing journey and being like, yeah, I know. I like, this is literally masculine almost saying like, I am a certified healed firefly chaser. Or this is masculine going, I am also disgusted by that. And this is masculine literally kind of coming into that modality right now in amplifying to the feminine and saying like, and again, almost masculine, the healed masculine being like, I know nothing that I say to you right now is going to let you believe that. But whenever you're comfortable, like this is literally the masculine being like, I get it. But I'm like, this is masculine being like, whatever you want to do. Like, this is like masculine being like, feminine's like, I'm doing like the most like, and masculine's like, that's fine. We're gonna go pick up your dry cleaning. Let's go pick up your dry cleaning. Like, let's go, like, whatever this is. This is masculine, literally kind of moving into that space or place, being like, I just want you to know, I'm trying to tell you that I understand. And that's why I'm okay kind of holding space with you right now. Because in a way, this is masculine, almost feeling like, again, this is a part of their own healing journey. Because it's almost seeing and recognizing like the level and degree things have reached in the fact that like the energies, both energies are in this exhaustion point around this, right? Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union. This is how the feminine energy is observing the masculine right now and vice versa. Which is, again, that point of observation that's being reached about something, which is, again, if it I gotta stress this, if it creates conflict, it's not harmless. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone intends the harm or not. If it creates conflict, that is how you can identify that it is something that is potentially harmful. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, I gotta stress, this is like if you've got a peanut allergy and someone gives you like a chocolate covered peanut, okay? If they didn't mean to, it's like the chocolate covered peanut isn't the problem. It's whether it is harmful for you. There's something that is coming towards the partnerships right now, the energy coming towards the partnership that, like, again, it may look harmless on the outside, but if it creates conflict, and it doesn't matter, this is what we talk about with unhealed karmic. It doesn't matter if it's intentionally being brought forth in that way or not. It's the same. Okay? If someone like if you bring in something harmful, if you bring in like something rabid, it doesn't matter if someone it doesn't matter. Okay, how do I explain this? It doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter the intentions. The point is the energy of the divine union needs to look instead about the major question around the circumstances situation, which is it creating a point of conflict? Okay, just assume then that it is harmful. And then how it is addressed, whether there is a unilateral, and the only way you can determine the way you heal it is by unilaterally making an agreement on how to address it. That's how you heal it. That's how you heal it. If it pulls you apart, if you're making different decisions, if someone's doing one thing, the other one's doing the other thing, congratulations, you're in separation right now. And it wasn't harmless. Clearly it wasn't harmless because you just went into separation over it. If you're taking that moment and you're realizing, and even now, maybe even having to slow things down, there's a bit of something here that may have to, like, the timeline needs to slow on something, which is, again, that observation point that if something is truly harmless, then putting some time in between it isn't going to change it into something harmful. Time is the validator as to whether something is harmless or not. So again, if there's something here that can be slowed down utilizing that Mercury retrograde, then there you go. That's validation that something is fine. You've just healed it. Even if it wasn't going to come towards you in a healed way, you just healed it by adding the element of time. Sometimes you can do that. Now, masculine and feminine that are doing that, congratulations. You're continuing forward in the divine union energy. This is what you do to stay in it. You make choices unilaterally. Okay? And this is and masculine, and the Mercury retrograde is helping with this. It's helping. It's giving you the answer. Now, masculine and feminine that are letting this, that again, the harmless, this is that moment, this is going to be so maddening for some energy, because this is like, yeah, they said it was harmless, but look, they're not here and I'm here. So whatever that was that they claim is harmless has literally led to like separation. This is someone like literally like losing their mind over it, because they're like, they're insisting it's harmless right now. This is someone going, someone is over there. Like, this is someone being like, someone's over there insisting that the thing that has torn us apart is still harmless. They're still singing it from the treetops as we are in separation over it. Like, this is literally, this is why we see that some of the energy is so frustrated at this point. Now, masculine and feminine right now that are in the divine union frequency, this is a lot more intentional work. The reason it isn't pulling the energy apart right now is this was a lot of chosen path work. There's a lot of intentionality here. This was almost this moment of mutually saying, we're going to tackle this together. We're ready to tackle this together. Like, okay, you and I, like, we've got the flashlights. We're going to go into the closet where we kept that, like, those skeletons. You remember those skeletons you got in those closet? We're going to go in there together. We're going to go in together. And then this is that moment that's like haunted house moment. Cause it's like, it's like that feeling of anxiety, but almost reminding oneself, like this is that work that you chose to do together. You know, that's why we see the divine union energy is moving through this with a bit more easement, because there's a point of like volition that's coming in here. Almost saying like, you know, a lot of this is creeping back up. A lot of this is being addressed, but there was almost this like mutual sense of saying to a certain extent, like, we both said that, like, we both decided we were going to do this. We all decided that this was the direction we were going to go into. You know, it's like, it's almost that moment of being like, if we're going to walk into the haunted house, we got to expect that there's going to be like a couple moments that someone's like, boo, you know what I mean? Like, you have to like expect that. That's why, to a certain extent, the support is almost that reminder and saying like, we didn't do this because it was going to be easy. Like, we chose to do this work because we knew it was going to be hard. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our devil energy in combination with our world card. Okay. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. Masculine and feminine energy. This is the only problem here. I just got to stress this. The only problem that we're potentially seeing right now as it relates to some of this work that masculine and feminine are doing right now. And I got to stress this. For a lot of the feminine energy in divine union, don't say it. Don't you dare say it. Don't you dare say it. Last couple of days, there's a big I told you so that I feel like feminine's been like this for. Right? This is why feminine. Remember how I described about a week ago masculine wanting to take this like leap into a pool? Like, and feminine being like walking into like a pond, and feminine being like, you know, you don't know what's in there. No, I did that once. Watch your foot. Don't do that. Don't do this. And masculine's going, I'm listening. This is now feminine seeing masculine like floundering a little bit. And feminine like a little, and this is a little part of this. This is feminine. Don't you dare start doing that, okay? Because I know you want to, but you're not going to do it, okay? Because again, this is that moment that we're seeing for masculine and feminine. Feminine, the only problem that was happening here has to do with like the energy of the masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is like, I want to describe the path work right now that's happening for the energy and divine union was like, I want to articulate it like masculine and feminine walking into a haunted house, and feminine being like, this is going to be scary. And masculine being like, no, it's great. We're going to be great. It's going to be fine. It's going to be like great. And feminine's like, no, I don't think you know. This is like a really scary haunted house. Masculine being like, it's fine. Now masculine's in there going, like screaming like a little child. And feminine is the one who's kind of more like, I knew this was it. Yeah, yep, here comes the gargoyle. Yep, there's the gargoyle. There, yep, there it is. This is feminine. This is almost that the energy became a reversed. But at the same time, in a way, it's why you're able to, the energy in divine union is able to support each other right now. Because this is masculine walking into this situation and circumstance and being like this. But this is also why masculine did it, because what masculine didn't want to say is this is what masculine was saying to a certain extent, which is why you can't say I told you so. Masculine knew that they couldn't do this work right now if they weren't in the divine union. Right? This is the masculine energy that was feeling like that burst of confidence, because that was masculine almost saying to feminine, with you by my side, I can go into this place. I can do this work. Even if it's going to scare the bejesus out of me as I do so. Like, this is almost masculine that was like allowing that work to happen, knowing that this feminine energy is one that can navigate and hold their own in points of crises. This isn't a feminine, like this is why we see that the masculine energy has been doing this dual path work. Do you see here? Masculine energy is allowed to experience their full emotional expression because feminine energy has built the ability to stand on their own and be supportive. Like these are the energies that are doing the cross path work right now and supporting each other in that frequency. And it does feel chaotic, but the funny thing about it right now is feminine is experiencing that chaotic energy, and feminine's already like, I knew this was happening. I got it. Feminine's already like in that state or space. The feminine was already like, I was prepared for this. Feminine's like, I've been prepared for this. Masculine is going through this a certain extent and doing this. And masculine's almost saying to feminine right now in divine union, this is heavy work for the masculine. But this is masculine almost saying, you doing that, being able to be that support system for me in this other space and place, I'm able to tackle this stuff. I'm able to put my full attention on dealing with this because I don't need to worry about this. Right? This is that dual path work happening. So this is beautiful because this is that intentionality. It is chaotic, but it's almost, again, it's fortifying the divine union frequency. It's addressing it, but also like working through it. Okay? Like this is like grist in the mill. This is feeling a lot like grist in the mill in a way. This is like the alchemization point. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union, this isn't necessarily grist in the mill. Because this is that moment to see if you can turn it into grist in the mill. This is that moment that's challenging you, having to navigate those circumstances and situations that are creating chaos, recognizing where that chaos stops, whether you, even if it's coming through as a space or place of well-intentioned, your ability to hold forth in the divine union frequency with all of that energy bearing down, regardless of whether it's coming through in a point of positivity or whether it's coming through at a point of someone actually intending to cause a point of conflict. It doesn't matter. Remember what I kept saying? It doesn't matter. What matters is your ability to observe and to see it as such and to turn it into something productive. For some of the energy right now, this is pulling you back into separation. And some of it is literally coming through on the difference between recognizing, trying to get particular and saying something isn't a big deal and someone saying it is a big deal. Because guess what? The minute you say, it doesn't matter. The minute that you say, minute one energy says it's not a big deal and one energy says it is a big deal, guess what? It's a big deal now. It has to become a big deal because that is the universality of taking the collective experience of the divine frequency and saying that the stone can't remain unturned. It has to be observed. It has to become a part of the integration effort. So recognizing that to a certain extent is, again, that point. It's that process in identifying what feels like it is harmful that stays outside of the door of the divine frequency versus what can be transformed. And it doesn't matter the intention. It doesn't matter getting to the bottom of what or why or how. All that matters is whether it becomes productive or not. So that is the lesson that we see that a lot of the energy coming into divine union is experiencing right now. And it's very, very fine work. And some of the energy is going to fall right out because this is one of those moments that someone's going to be saying, like, this is just harmless. And another person being like, if it was so harmless, why are we now in separation? If it was so harmless, why are we now in separation? Doesn't seem harmless to me. Masculine and feminine. And it doesn't matter at that moment about the outside reasons. It matters because you were not able to unify and come through with a universal plan on how to address it. If you let it become a separation point, you let it become a separation point. That was the point of that separation. And that's that moment of the personal accountability coming into the energy in not necessarily blaming the outside reasons or forces, but instead looking at something and saying, were you trying to integrate in something or were you utilizing it as a way to break it back into separation? Now, masculine and feminine in separation right now, this is why we see that the feminine energy is so much in that point of being so having that point right now of being so guarded in terms of allowing any energy towards them right now, because this is feminine energy feeling the full weight of frustration in what the wrong kind of harmless act can do. This is feminine almost feeling that like remember that princess in the pea that I identified? This is almost feminine looking at the situations and circumstances right now and identifying that in a way nothing is harmless. It depends on the context through which something is experienced. And this is feminine that is feeling frustrated that masculine energy bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, lacks the ability of discernment when it comes to identifying whether something is actually harmless, because masculine energy has a habit of trying to find the outside reason instead of looking at the reality of the circumstance and situation. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter where the dragon came from or whose dragon it belongs to. If it becomes the dragon, then it's a dragon. Like, it's almost that moment of feminine looking at something right now and feeling the frustration of masculine refusing to identify and recognize something that was a huge circumstance, that masculine's own ability not to be able to be unilateral and coming up to a mutual choice on something in terms of how to act was the moment that something became a dragon. This is the moment that feminine is observing the discernment point, that nothing is harmful for divine union until there is a lack of agreement on how to handle it. That is the only time something actually becomes a threat to the divine union. And feminine observing this with masculine right now is why we see that feminine is almost at a point where they're now overcompensating and just kind of wanting to stay in their own lane to a certain extent and build that for themselves, because this is a feminine energy that feels the frustration or the possibility of a masculine that hasn't learned that ability or degree of discernment, and how damaging it could be to their own flow state to have an energy that refuses to move in that point of being able to like alchemize and come into a state of being of like mind, even when it is difficult to do so, because it's easier for feminine to come into that point of managing becoming of like mind. Masculine is much harder path work to be able to build that ability to do so. Masculine, if you're in separation right now and you're on this journey, you're literally like, how do I explain to feminine that I know how to integrate? Like, I know how to come into, this is masculine literally being like, oh no, how do I show them? This is so discerning. How do I show them that I have this ability? How do I show them that I have this ability to like merge with a singular focus point? How do I show, this is literally feminine energy being like, you don't know, you can't divine union. You don't know how to tango. And masculine's being like, I know how to tango. And I'm like, I'm not going to let you try to tango with me, because like, if I try to tango with me and you mess up, like you're literally going to break both my legs. And masculine being like, no, you don't understand. I really know what it is this time, right? This is almost like masculine coming into that point, being like, oh no, how do I show them this, right? You're going to have to show them. You're going to have to start, it's going to have to start small, and it's going to take like, it's going to be by degrees. You're going to show them by degrees, okay? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our world card in combination with our lovers and its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Yeah, it's just like, it's, you know, it's par for the course. Okay. Masculine and feminine. Okay. In divine union. This is that moment, though, that we see even now. There's that ability that we see that you're working through right now. That ability to come in, like one of the issues that we're seeing right now. And I think that this is something that needs to be navigated for the energy, even in divine union right now, is there's a feeling of some of that personal battle energy coming through, right? There's that unfathomable territory between what you can necessarily build and work through together versus what feels like a lot of that internal journey. And so for masculine and feminine right now, even in divine union, this retrograde's hitting in such a way that like some of this deeper work, it feels like it's almost hard to articulate. Right? But again, the nice thing about this is the fact that for the energy in the divine union frequency, even that is accepted about, like, this isn't a moment that I have to stress this. Okay, I have to stress this. This isn't a moment that divine union means that everything must be shared. This isn't a moment that is amplifying that like everything is like, you know, because that's a moment that we see codependency, right? right? That's not divine union. It's not a moment like you go, I go, you go, I go, you go. Like, it's not that moment that everything has to be like that. It's that moment that talks about that subtle wall between what one must navigate within oneself versus what someone else can help with. And it's that moment of observing, and this is what we see is so beautiful right now for the energy and divine union, which is almost saying, like, again, it's not just the fact that we see here that the energy is in this modality of saying, like, you know, we are sharing a path, we are sharing this energy together. It's that moment that says, I do not deny you your own path. I do not deny you the fact that even in partnership, our journey, that divine union journey, requires you to do some internal work. This is almost masculine and feminine finding that point right now, but almost the anxiety of looking at things right now and not wanting their own internal journey to separate them from the divine union journey. In a way, that is how you maintain the frequency, because it's creating that space and place to be mindful of your personal path work, but also it's like, and that's that recognition that that anxiety point, that care, that caution, that attention, that's okay too, because that's almost showing to a certain extent your own boundaries, your own value metric in terms of recognizing the difference between something that you want to do versus something that you're cautious in doing. It's hitting those moments right now. It's like hitting that, like, this is going to feel like a little bit of like a grind energy here, because this is like literally like, this is like taking like a 45-degree turn to a certain extent and wanting to make sure that the other person's holding on for the ride. And even now, it's almost like some of that personal path work is like testing the bonds of the divine union itself. But again, the beauty of the divine union energy is almost that moment of saying, like, even that feeling, we can pass through it. We can continue forward, you know, because that's not showing a point. Like, again, when we hit those moments and we're in divine union, hitting those pressure points isn't going to break something. It's almost going to show where a little bit more care and attention needs to be put in, right? It's like road testing something and being like, there it is, right? Like I said, there it is. There's the crack. There it is. Okay, we need to address that. We need to put a little grease there. We need to put a little bit of gold. We need to pour something in there, okay? Masculine and feminine in divine union are doing that intentionally right now. And it's almost that moment of walking into that to do intentionally that is allowing it to be, even now through that, a point of like recognizing and saying, we kind of anticipated this. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. What we are effectively seeing is a moment wherein the energy coming into divine union is feeling that subtlety. And this is feeling like that subtle work that is testing the divine union, because again, this is that moment that we're potentially seeing some kind of outside factor being introduced that feels like it is harmless. It feels like it shouldn't be a problem, but it's causing a problem, because again, the value of whether this is a divine union energy that's able to maintain that frequency is the recognition point that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if something was intended to be harmful or positive. If it's causing a problem, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be looked at as something that is just inherently something that needs to be tackled, instead of trying to build a reason as to why it shouldn't. And some of this energy here, like agonizing on the details, like looking at something right now and someone being like, I don't feel comfortable about it. And someone being like, well, this is its origin. I feel like its origin's fine. And it's like, it's almost that point, like if you're trying to like backtrack as to why I should feel comfortable about it, it doesn't matter. I feel uncomfortable about it. It needs to be addressed. So we see here that notation, that point of optics in recognizing that it doesn't matter. The valuation point as to whether something is harmful or not comes expressly at the moment that someone in the divine union frequency says that it is problematic, is effectively that moment that, again, everything standing on that in terms of whether that is now adjusted for, accommodated, alchemized into something positive, thereby showing that this is a divine union that can perpetuate into that frequency, or if this is going to be something harmless that pulls you apart. And if you're letting that happen, then it wasn't harmless. And especially because I see right now that there's someone potentially leaving a divine union right now saying, I can't believe we broke, like, I can't believe we ended over something so harmless. It's because it wasn't harmless. Nothing is harmless if someone else says it's not harmless. And if your inability to see that and recognize that pulls you out of the divine frequency, then that's that point that needs to be assessed, because you're not recognizing that the divine union frequency is recognizing that being of like minds means that one person's harmless becomes your harmless. Harmful, it becomes your harmful. It doesn't matter whether you think that that is the case or not. It's like, it takes 1 teaspoon. What I've been saying all week, it doesn't matter. The minute the harm's there, then it needs to be addressed. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why we see that feminine is feeling potentially so, and this is something that feminine's doing on the singular path work right now. A lot of this feminine energy, this is why feminine is kind of throwing their hands up to a certain extent as it relates to partnership at this moment, because feminine is almost saying, if there's not something about the ability to discern in this way, shape, or form, if masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, if masculine lacks the ability of understanding that harm is not something that you put an objective label on, but it requires the subjectivity of the energy that you are in connection with. If masculine can't learn that, this is feminine saying, I can't teach them. This is why we see that the feminine is almost in that space or place right now where feminine is moving so autonomously on their own, because feminine is feeling a frustration point on potentially masculine's ability to discern in that way. Masculine, you may be looking about the fact that some of your path work in the past may have led to situations and circumstances like that. You may have even been identifying, again, those moments or spaces or places where you said that something was, you may have thought something was harmless, or someone else said it was harmless, and seeing that dissolution point laid in the moment of one person looking at something and saying this is harmless versus another person saying that it is harmful. So having that point of mutual accountability in recognizing and making sure that you're in alignment and agreement, like addressing it in that way, is how you navigate those circumstances or situations. You have to be in mutual agreement. Masculine energy and separation right now, this could be that moment that we're effectively seeing wherein you're doing this work for yourself right now. You're recognizing and almost saying to feminine, I see the fact that you're very cautious about letting other energy towards you. You're very cautious about letting other energy, because it's that feeling about letting someone interrupt your own flow state, because if recognizing that a lot of the masculine energy isn't able to navigate that space or place of coming into compromise, being of like mind, recognizing that it takes that point of merging, if you will. And so we see that for a lot of the masculine energy right now, this is that moment that's almost saying to feminine, I'm willing to take as long as I can to show you that I have that ability, that I have that capability, that's something that can be integrated here. So we see that for a lot of the masculine energy and separation right now, navigating that process is something that's feeling very difficult, because you see why the feminine is holding you at such a limitation point. But it's also that point of recognition and almost like having to allow the process to slow down, having to allow things to kind of move at a very like slow pace, if you will, to almost amplify the fact that you recognize that this isn't about what you desire, but what they desire, which is almost showing the fact that you're already recognizing that this isn't about your needs so much as it's about both of your needs. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Lover's card in its reversal in combination with our Strength card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Pentacles. Masculine and feminine energy in divine union. This is that moment that we see that the mutual ability right now, again, the amplification and the care. And one of the things that we see, this is why we see that the energy right now feels triggered, but it's almost like creating a source of strength right now, as opposed to unhealthiness, because the anxiety about the loss of the partnership, the anxieties around the point of separation, the anxiety, the protectiveness of the partnership, it's not the fact that it doesn't bring up those triggers. It's not the fact that it doesn't bring up those unhealthy coping mechanisms, those bad modalities of thought. Masculine and feminine in divine union are amplifying the positive, not the negative. Feminine is looking at that and building a point of strength. Feminine's almost looking and saying, I'm going to do everything I can to be as strong as possible to preserve the divine union frequency, to preserve being in that modality. Masculine is saying, I'm feeling that anxiety too. I'm going to do everything I can to produce towards it. Right? And so here we see, this is like the emotional and practical backbone that is all working, not oppositional, not letting all of that anxiety and fear tear that energy apart, but almost, again, what did I say? Let's see where the cracks are so that we can reinforce them. Let's figure out where we're weak so we can add strength to it. So even now, if the divine union energy feels like it's being tested, it's more of that point of having that sense of being looking at something and being we knew this was going to be difficult. We knew this was going to test the stability of the divine union frequency. We're this is literally feeling like what the Mercury retrograde is for, which is it's like a strength test. It's like checking to see where the fault lines are so that you can put that point of observation on what needs to be repaired, what needs to be reinforced through that point of observation. So that in work right now for the energy in the divine union is intentional. There's something about this work that we're seeing right now is an intentional direction of the masculine and feminine, consciously or unconsciously utilizing the Mercury retrograde slowdown to allow this type of work to occur, working in harmony with the energy of the retrograde. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, you didn't do this intentionally. This is occurring to the divine union. This is occurring as you're trying to come into divine union right now, and it is literally pressure testing whether you can maintain the divine union frequency. Because again, this isn't just the fact right now that harmful things are coming towards the divine union. It's the fact that harmless things are coming to the divine union. And it's whether the harmless thing is fracturing you, that is potentially going to show whether you are going to stay in divine union or whether you're going to separate back out, you fall back out into separation. Okay? So we see here that for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is that point. Because if masculine and feminine energy are able to maintain a singular mind, a singular choice, holding that choice and amplifying that choice forward, then that's how you stay in the divine union frequency. If you don't, if you utilize that harmless thing that is offered and not recognizing if that point of discomfort between one person feeling uncomfortable, the other person feeling comfortable, you let that, it doesn't matter about the nature of it, if you let that persist and perpetuate, then you're falling back into separation, because this is a circumstance or situation that is requiring collaboration. It's requiring compromise. Feminine, this is why we see right now that feminine is holding fast right now and feeling very cautious about letting masculine energy in, because again, this is feminine feeling the anxiety of masculine that can't discern the difference between something that is harmless and not. And recognizing the fact that masculine energy, having that ability to recognize that harmlessness is identified not by the nature of something, but how someone feels, that's some pretty specific discernment. And feminine, to a certain extent, feels like a lot of caution in terms of some of the fact that they feel like a lot of masculine can't do that. So what we see here, how is masculine that's healing helping feminine in this way? By showing a steadfastness, by showing an ability to hold forth in terms of what they're offering, to almost show feminine to a certain extent that what they're offering the feminine isn't something that it's based on their own personal desire, but something that is legitimate and real and not going anywhere, because, much like the lesson of the Mercury retrograde, something that is truly offered does not have a time on it. It doesn't have a clock here to a certain extent. And there's a clock here, but it's almost like feminine is almost a way like making sure to test masculine's intentions through their ability of being steadfast to a certain degree. But more importantly, and this is the difference we're seeing right now between the articulation point between holding space and making space. Holding space, making space is giving someone free rein. Holding space is saying with a certainty and desire, like we said, even if you aren't doing anything, I want to be there with you. Even if you're expressing that you can do something yourself, I would like to offer to do it. This is masculine almost again. It's not just saying feminine being like, I can do it myself, and masculine being like, cool. This is feminine being like, I can do it myself. And feminine being like, masculine being like, I know you can do it yourself. I would never say you can't, but I would love to do it for you. I would love to be there for you. Again, that is the difference between making space and holding space. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Between our 9 of Pentacles in combination with our 10 of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 3 of Wands. Masculine and feminine in divine union. This is what we appreciate. This is what we see that is happening right now for the energy in this frequency, which is a moment and an opportunity. And I keep saying, it's like letting that be your horizon point. It's not the fact that everything is perfect right now. This is the energy. It's not the fact that everything is perfect right now for the energy around the divine union. Heads up, it's never a perfect time for divine union to occur. It's never ideal. But again, it is that moment that we are effectively seeing wherein what is masculine and feminine doing right now in the divine union frequency. They're doing the best that they can to make things comfortable in the present moment, and they're building plans for the future. It's present and future combined, regardless, navigating and understanding that whatever's between those two can't necessarily be completely smoothed over. But as long as you're working in that point of that dual work of the present and the path forward, then you're going to have to address what's on the way. And that's just the way it has to be. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union, you're learning how to do this, because we're seeing for the energy coming into divine union right now, you're feeling the external energy around you that's not ideal. Guess what? It's never ideal time to be in divine union. Divine unions are not ideal for the energy around them. It's not something you do for the energy around. You do it because you're creating that space. You're creating the divine union. And for the energy that's coming into divine union, there's that observation that there's always going to be some problematic energy around you at all times. It's more about how you address it and how you navigate it, making sure that you're clarifying, you're building that clarity for each other. You're building that point of almost saying to each other again, this is where we are, this is where we're going, and amplifying and articulating from that perspective. That's also half the work too. Being able to have that voice, being able to have that amplification point and be like, this is our perspective on it. This is our perspective on it, because this is, again, the way you're able to build that point of peace is saying, this isn't my opinion on it. This is our opinion on it. This is where we are. This is what we are doing. That is the differentiation point between being in divine union and being in separation. if you're not saying this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to like, if you're not having that optics, if you're not building in that way, then you're right back in the fray. So again, if there's something that is harmful, that is there's something that's introduced to the divine union energy that amplifies the difference between this is what we're going to do versus I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do this and I don't think you should do that. The minute that happens, you're falling back into separation. So it doesn't matter the intentionality of that. What matters is what you do when it occurs. It matters what you do when it occurs to come back into. And this is even the point right now. You can have those drops when you're deep in the divine union energy, but this is harder for the energy just coming into that path work right now because it's almost that point of amplifying something that feels like it's happening over something harmless right now. This is the difference between two people looking at something and someone being like, I don't think it's a big deal. And another person being like, I think it's a giant, giant deal. It doesn't matter who's right. It matters what you do about it. And it matters coming into a singular perspective in terms of what you're going to do about it. You can't pretend one doesn't exist. You can't say this is it or this. You have to find that space in between. Continuing, mass feminine energy right now. This is why feminine energy is in separation right now, is because feminine energy right now is looking at their own peace. And they're worried about energy coming in to disrupt their peace because something about that makes feminine feel like there is a difficulty or hurdle that they've seen in energy being able to move in that way. Feminine's almost feeling like that is that point. That ability to do so is something that they feel is very hard to articulate. And we're seeing here that feminine is almost employing this point of just like, this is almost like a lot of this energy right now and almost saying like, I'm good, I'm fine. No, you keep going. Like this is almost saying, this is feminine, almost like pushing masculine away in separation, being like, no, please go do your thing. No, it's fine. Have fun with that. You're still doing that. That's great. Because this is feminine waiting. And that in a way, this is feminine almost watching right now and waiting to see the healed masculine energy. That's like, it's like coming out of the cold. Of being like, no, I don't want to do any of that. And feminine being like, no, it's fine. This is almost feminine being like to masculine, trying to come towards them in separation, being like, you don't want to be here. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. I'm not doing anything fun. I'm doing nothing here is fun. And again, masculine that's healing, that's coming into that space, again, almost recognizing and having to move away from anything that feels like it's fun. This is masculine being like, that sounds fantastic. That sounds perfect. That sounds ideal. And more than anything, almost trying to amplify to feminine being like, because this is actually masculine energy saying, feminine being like, what do you want to do? And masculine saying, well, where are you? And feminine's like, I'm sitting in a pit in like the middle of nowhere. And masculine's like, that sounds great. That's actually funny, craziest thing. I was also going to go into that like really boring cave and hang out there. What are the odds? This is literally masculine being like, I just want to be near you. This is how masculine is amplifying to feminine right now. The ability to build that bond. This is masculine saying like, what campfire are you at? Just tell me where you are. Just let me just come wherever you are. Just let me find where you are. Now, continuing to get clarification between these cards right now, between our 10 of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification. What did I say? This is what's really, look, this is what's beautiful about this right now. And this is what's happening right now for the energy that is healed and the energy in divine union frequency. It's going to be actually the hardest right now is for the energy coming into divine union. This is masculine and feminine looking right now. The power of the Mercury retrogrades upon us. Things are not ideal. Things feel chaotic. Feels like everything stopped. This is masculine and feminine. Like, what do I say about the bus stop effect? Doesn't matter if things slow down as long as you're happy about where you are. This is masculine and feminine divine union frequency saying, doesn't matter. There's no destination because you're there. This is literally masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency saying, it doesn't matter if everything else is in that space or place. We don't have anywhere to go. This is where we want to be. This is masculine and feminine, almost feeling like that point of being like, even if it's chaotic, even if it's hard, this is masculine energy and feminine divine union saying, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Right? Letting that be that point of amplification, even through the point of stillness and pause and chaos. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is the test of seeing whether something harmless is going to pull you out of the frequency. Because it's not the harmful things you have to worry about. It's the harmless ones. It's the things that feel like they're harmless. It's that moment of looking at something and one person saying, I think that that's probably harmful, and the other person saying, I think it's harmless, that creates that potential separation point. Having that moment of mutual agreement, being able to find that space, hold that note, even when one person wants to go up and one person wants to go down, making the mutual agreement to find that path, navigate it together, is how you create that space for yourself. And it requires compromise, and it requires looking at something and being like, if you think it's too high, then it's too high. If you think it's too low, then it's too low. Because unless you're both in agreement, you're not in the frequency. And that takes constant calibration. Masculine and feminine in separation, this is that moment that we are seeing that is requiring that point of observation and separation. This is feminine literally coming into a space or place of almost allowing that to be a point of them kind of saying like, I'm going to go it alone. This is feminine almost like moving again so far into that act of being like, I don't need the partnership. I'm going to seek this out myself. And this is now masculine again in healing, on their healing journey, suddenly reaching this moment of being at this point. Because this is almost feminine saying like, I'm done with it. Like this is like feminine being like, feminine's like, I'm just going to create that space and place here. And this is now masculine that's healing going, I understand. I feel the same way. But I need to stress to you that like, there is nowhere I want to go with you. You are my destination. This is how the masculine that's healing is amplifying that they're healed, because they're saying to feminine, there is nothing else I desire to be doing right now. You are my destination. Continuing forward on these cards right now, between our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal in combination with our King of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? There it is. Masculine and feminine energy right now in divine union. This is that moment that we are effectively seeing wherein the energy in the divine union frequency right now with masculine, we see here that for masculine, this is feeling now like that easement point. Earlier this week, it was much harder for masculine because it was almost like that point of having your own confidence tested. We see here it was that pause point to a certain extent, right? It was almost that pause point that you had to reach. And even now, there's some of that pause point energy. But we're almost seeing here, like this is almost that moment. It feels like this is that separation point between putting something out and like hearing for it and waiting for it to come back. This is almost like that moment now where we see that things are starting to like push through even beyond this, like even beyond the hurdles of the retrograde. And it's going to feel like a lot of the energy around them almost being like, this is going to feel like a lot of like energy being like static, being like, sorry, it took me so long to get back. Sorry, it took me so long to do this. Sorry. But really it was because in a way, you know, these things like they require some like energetic alignment, if you will. So we almost see here that there's something about this feeling right now that's helping, because even now I feel like masculine is almost feeling the fact that it feels like there's some kind of shift right now in their own ability to move in that modality. And some of it is coming through by, again, other masculine energy that's healed, kind of matching them in this way. So this is really beneficial right now as it relates to any of that healing that masculine's trying to do in this way, shape, or form, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because This is almost coming through right now with the masculine energy, having some way to like tangibly or emotionally overcome any of these hurdles and blockages. Feminine, this is something that they're potentially offering right now to the feminine as well, right? Because we see here that again, if this is feminine energy that was able to help masculine through that blockage and almost like continue forward in their own flow state, this is masculine and feminine energy navigating this together, even through those hurdles and setbacks. Like this is almost that moment that's amplifying that, like what you do during those pause points amplifies what you're doing, and doing something not because it's having a reaction, but more because this is the way you move is like where you need to be. Masculine's just starting to get that right now. That's why we see masculine starting to like navigate some of these like unhealed energies that are coming up within them, because again, it's getting better at this. It's building that ability to do so. It's coming into that state or space that's amplifying that it's not about the reaction point. It's about what you choose to do in those pauses. It's what you choose to do in like the breath in between that amplifies whether something's going to move forward in that way or space. Feminine and masculine are both learning this right now. Masculine's learning a lot from watching feminine. Feminine, you're feeling a lot of that emotional support right now from masculine, even through your own hurdles and setbacks right now. Because again, it's not a huge thing. And I have to stress to you, for feminine navigating this right now, this is not the type of divine union energy of feminine being interrupted, masculine being like, let me do that for you. This is like masculine being like, you've got this, because you know the minute you don't, I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union. This is that energy right now. And what we see here that is so important and so valuable, which is why we see that the feminine is a bit more in a state or space that they can help masculine understand this better. If you're trying to come into divine union, is feminine is used to this. Feminine is used to like looking the gift horse in the mouth, if you will. Feminine is much more used to situations or circumstances where somebody brings something towards them in a way that feels innocuous, that they recognize isn't. This is feminine almost trying to educate masculine right now in this modality of coming into divine union, and almost even potentially masculine. If feminine's talking to you in this way, make sure you put your ear out to listen. They've got something to tell you. Because what we're seeing here is this is feminine almost trying to articulate to masculine, especially if masculine's looking at something to feminine right now and being like, it's harmless. This is almost feminine being like, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a few different stories about situations or circumstances where someone brought something to someone and said, this is harmless, and it wasn't harmless. This is like feminine almost trying to say to masculine, if masculine's going, I don't see the harm in it. This is literally feminine being like, I've got several books on the subject. I've got several books on the subject on what has happened. This is even feminine even going like, I don't even have to look at my own history. We want to like look at all of history. Like this is feminine being like, I've got a book. It's over here. Like this is feminine almost being like literally so many moments of looking at something that someone had good intentions, and lo and behold, it didn't work for that way. So we see here that this is something where masculine, if you're in this modality right now and you're coming into divine union and you're looking at feminine being like, I don't see the harm, like listen to feminine, because I think feminine's got some stories to tell you about how harmless things can immediately become very difficult. Okay? Masculine and feminine, though, what we see that's moving you and navigating you through this right now. And this is the energy that's staying in the divine union frequency. This is feminine, masculine energy. What are you doing? Feminine saying, I think it's harmful. I think this isn't great. And this is masculine being like, I'm all ears. Tell me your anxieties. This isn't masculine saying, I'm going to do what I'm going to do and we're going to be okay with it and you're going to get used to it. This is masculine saying, because then you're in separation. This is masculine going, what can I, and this masculine going, what can we do? What can I do that will make you feel comfortable? What can I do? What can I bring forth? Finding that ability to hit that compromise point. And potentially, as I keep saying, the solution here is time. The solution here is time. Whatever it is, if something is, again, I'm going to say this, the message is coming through for like days. If something is well intentioned, then time will not disrupt that intention. Okay? That's all you need to know. If something is well intentioned, then time will never interrupt that intention. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is feminine energy navigating a lot of masculine energy coming towards them right now. And feminine energy, what is feminine energy doing right now in separation to navigate and discern what feels like it's intentional and positive versus what's not? I'm going to say it again. If it is well intentioned, time will not disrupt the intention. Masculine in separation right now. This is masculine energy in separation, recognizing if it is well intentioned, time will not interrupt the intention. It's the same message over and over coming through. I don't know how else to say it. There's only one way to say it. That's the way to say it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 3 of Wands in combination with our 4 of Wands. Love to see this type of energy in the middle of the retrograde. One card to clarify, please. Good. Masculine and feminine energy, that's the point. The retrograde right now, even this moment, even though there's some individual path work happening here, it's some hard energy coming up to the surface. It's that moment right now of, again, what is amplifying an ability to build that sense of positivity? It's, again, the present experience. This is almost a moment for masculine and feminine energy, saying like, it's okay that there's no rush. Mercury retrograde slows everything down, but it's fine. You don't need to rush if you're happy where you are. If you're happy where you are, you don't need to go anywhere, right? You're great. He who's content can't be ruined, right? Finding that moment, that point of personal contentment and building for the path ahead, like that in a way is the amplification point of the joy. It's amplifying the joy in the present moment and then building more of those experiences going forward. Being able to move in that directionality is almost creating a space or place that's helping the energy right now move more into that vibration that feels celebratory. It's taking some of this right now, and it's going to be feeling now like a point of anticipation that pause point is like getting through the hard part. It's like, can we get to the good part? It's going to feel like, in a way, for the energy and divine union, having done a lot of this work or doing a lot of this work now and feeling like it's okay, it's going to be eased soon. We're going to get to the good part in a minute. Like we just need to hold forth through these difficulties and allow ourselves to get to the good part, right? But a lot of it feels like a lot of preparation right now prior to having that point of easement, which is why we see that like we've got like that balance right now of having to go through some like heavy energy to get to the bright part on the other side of it. Welcome to the solstice. Take a seat. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is a different lesson because this wasn't intentional path work. This wasn't something that you were trying to do. This wasn't heavy lifting you went to the gym for. This is that work of something that's coming through as harmless, and that recognition point that someone can be as well-intentioned as possible when they spike the punch. They can be it can move into that state of being like someone could, like something harmless is only harmless if it's experienced as such. So it's almost that moment right now of, again, navigating circumstances or situations that is all about your own personal perspective on some things right now. And it's requiring this level or degree right now for the energy coming into divine union to recognize and to amplify around circumstances and situations right now. Again, speaking from a point of autonomy, and even potentially looking at something right now and having to put a point of like, even that point of saying, assuming there's that point of recognition of saying there can be always an assumption that someone had the best of intentions, but that's not necessarily that point of recognizing that it feels like it's going to lead to the best outcome, right? So what we see here is, again, the masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, navigating the difference. And this is so important right now. The difference between something that may feel harmless in the short term versus where you're trying to go in the long term. And so there's that point of optic right now in terms of assessing and doing that work and saying, this isn't even like, these are, again, something that like, if something is positive, then time is not going to necessarily damage that, especially if these are divine unions that are just coming into formation here. It's almost that point of observation of recognizing that in order to do, you have to do the hard work, okay? You have to do the hard work of building a strong divine union before you can start getting a little flexy in how you navigate situations and circumstances in terms of healing other situations. This is like keeping your eye on the prize. This is all about distraction right now. So again, if you're in the middle of something, if you've gotten good at something, if you got something on autopilot, then it's okay to potentially look at doing a lot of like extra assignments, if you will. But if you're in the middle of creating something, you can't take something on in the process of creating something, because it's about having the sense of recognizing what requires your attention and when. And so there's a lot of work right now that's happening for the divine union energy, especially as it relates to anything that's coming towards you, like with the best of intentions, in terms of really asking oneself. It's not about whether it's the intentionality is there, it's whether it's best for you. It's whether it's best for the divine partnership. It's whether it's best for the divine union now. And having that sense of optics in present, in seeing where you are now, and seeing where you're going to go. This is some of the work that's being brought to the energy right now coming into divine union, to see if energy is going to make that choice, navigating towards like the long-term benefit, or if someone in the divine union lacks willpower, if someone lacks the ability not to get distracted, if someone can't pass up a good time, can't pass up a possibility, can't pass up, sorry, it's hard to say can't pass up a possibility. That's what I was trying to get out of my face. Can't pass up a possibility for the sake of the long-term positive. This is literally what is happening right now. It's like an impulse test. It's to see if the energy in the divine union can pass an impulse test versus what one feels called to do versus what is actually going to be long-term beneficial for the sake of what you're trying to create. And for masculine and feminine right now, unfortunately, some energy is not going to pass that test. Some of that energy is going to get distracted. Some of that energy is going to be pulled off of their path work. Like, look, a firefly. Like, there it is. Like, it's like again, it's that moment that like is requiring that level or degree of discernment. Masculine and feminine that are in separation, this is exactly why the feminine energy right now is literally at a point where they're just moving on their own, and they're not even stopping right now to try to assist masculine in that modality, because this is a moment of feminine feeling so frustrated in seeing masculine that is so easily taken off course by what feels like either the most obvious or simple of reasons. This is literally feminine energy reaching a point right now with their own consciousness where they're like, if you are so easily distracted, Godspeed. Yes, go for it. Yeah, that looks great. Get on that ship, Pinocchio. That looks like fun. Go for it. Have fun over there. That seems great. Like, awesome. I bet that's going to be an awesome time. You go do that. Feminine's literally almost saying to masculine, no. It's fine. It's cool. I got some stuff to do here. You go for it. No, you have fun. You have fun at that carnival. It looks, I can't go, but you have a good time there, right? This is feminine literally looking at masculine being like, I can't even stress that this is not even a moment right now of feminine just looking at masculine being like, I can't. It's like there's not even words, you know? And this is masculine that's healing right now. Masculine that's healing. You may have kind of taken a few spins on that carnival ride, and you're suddenly realizing that like it does not look great in the morning. Doesn't look great in the morning. Again, there's a moment right now for a lot of the masculine energy that's healing right now. You may be recognizing that this has happened to you a few times. And one of the problems that we're seeing right now for a lot of masculine on this path right now is this moment of feeling that dual feeling of wanting to leave the carnival. Like wanting, wanting to like being like, oh, like, you know, it's like reaching that like moment for masculine that you're like, yeah. And the problem that you're seeing right now is almost that point that like, you can almost observe and see the fact that like it feels a little bit like what happens when you're at a carnival and you're like the last one there. It doesn't feel, it's like, how was it? Was it great? You know, and for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now, you could potentially be feeling that moment where you're observing and feeling and seeing to a certain extent that like your own direction or your own course is no longer what the one that feels like it doesn't feel like it was going anywhere. It feels like it was more of an act of trying to maintain something that, you know, again, when we are a child, we do childish things. This is that moment that's recognizing and having this perspective and actually saying to oneself, like, this is where I aspire to be. But also feeling like in the past, there may have been moments of allowing that immediate desire, that immediate sense of fulfillment, that immediate need not to feel like you're missing out on something. Maybe that moment of feeling like you may have missed out on something very big or something very important. And for masculine in this modality right now, one of the hardest points is almost feeling to a certain extent like, you know, you're trying to like run back up on a path. But again, recognizing it's going to take time to get back up on that path because, you know, some of that energy's already been in that direction in the first place. So for masculine energy in this modality right now, one of the amplification points is almost assessing and being able to see the fact that feminine to a certain extent is assuming that you still want to be in that other space and place, that you're still in that space, and almost saying to them like, no, like that's not who I am, that's not who I want to be, is almost like requiring a level of accountability and saying, but I mean, you know, it's almost requiring you to a certain extent to like take a valuation point and recognizing that there were times that you were that person, you know. And for some of the energy right now, if this is masculine that's coming into a state of healing with old feminine energy, this is that point of accountability in terms of articulating and saying, I see how my direction was off versus where you were going. Like we were going in different directions versus new masculine energy coming towards feminine and trying to ascertain and really articulate to feminine that you're not in that modality anymore, that your desire to be with feminine is genuine, and almost articulating and saying to feminine, my fun is where you are. My fun is where we're going. My fun isn't where I want to go. My fun is where I am with you. We will make whatever it is fun. Having that point of amplification right now is almost how the masculine is helping the feminine feel that value point and saying like, I'm not looking for a carnival. I'm looking for that like larger path, that higher work. Continuing to get clarification right now between our Four of Wands in combination with our Knight of Cups. King of Wands in its reversal. In order to be able to do so, there needs to be an accounting. There needs to be an observation point. And again, this is almost masculine and feminine coming into, like, again, the energy and separation. This is almost masculine energy. This is what we're effectively seeing right now. This is masculine energy trying to come towards feminine and trying to articulate masculine, if you're trying to come towards feminine, that you've healed, that you're in this space, and you're doing so by leading with your own emotions. And a lot of this could even be about articulating about how you weren't always in that space or place. Almost immediately, almost again, accounting for that past version of self that may have not necessarily had the eye on the right prize, if you will, is helping articulate your own experience in terms of being open and vulnerable as it relates to your own journey. Now, masculine and feminine in separation right now is looking from masculine. This is a feminine that, like, if this masculine isn't like looking at like, isn't willing to like identify and recognize that they haven't needed some healing, then this is a feminine that's like, this is an energy that hasn't healed. Because the healing journey isn't like, I am perfect, I came here perfect, nothing I've ever done is perfect. This is almost a masculine that's amplifying their healing journey by saying, let me tell you about those times that I was not perfect. Let me tell you about those times that let me tell you when I used to be a firefly chaser. Let me tell you those moments. Let me show you I've healed enough that I can see where I made mistakes in the past. Feminine is looking at masculine and an ability to assess the past version of self. It's a twofold. An accountability of the emotionality of now, how they feel, versus an assessment on how they may have made mistakes in the past, pointing that value point of a masculine energy that is truly healing because they're authentically expressing themselves in the present and taking accountability for the fact that the healing journey is not linear. We are never perfect on it. Having those stumbling blocks is not something that you hide. It's something that you articulate and amplify, because those are badges of honor you wear in taking the spiritual path, is where feminine is feeling that point of value in terms of recognizing if the masculine is truly healed. Feminine and masculine coming into divine union right now. This is that moment of feminine looking at masculine and saying, can you take your desire and supersede it for your emotions towards me? Can you recognize and can you delay? Can you delay your own gratification? Can you delay your own need on something, or something that's coming towards you right now that feels very tempting for the sake of the partnership? And if masculine is in that modality, masculine who is showing that they're healing to feminine is saying, absolutely I can. This is masculine saying, I'm not perfect. I know when I'm susceptible to things. I'm letting myself be guided forward, and I'm doing so with a mutual mind. That point of building, that point of compromise for masculine feels like you have to staunch the internal drive for the emotional of where you're going to be able to amplify to the energy around you. Almost saying again, not even no, but not now. Now's not the time. I am focused on doing something right now. I'm building a divine union. All my attention needs to be focused here right now. That's the energy that's staying in divine union. Feminine and masculine right now in divine union. This is the energy of the masculine having doubted themselves in terms of leading with the heart space. But what's masculine energy doing right now that feminine's taught them to do when they feel those points of doubt? Give it more gas. When you're starting to feel like that, when you're starting to feel that lack of confidence, put more emotion into it. Lean in harder. This is feminine almost saying to masculine right now in that modality, don't you remember what you told me? Don't you remember what you told me? When I start to feel that pullback in my confidence, give it more gas, give it more emotion. Let yourself lead. Like when you're starting to doubt yourself, go, like push forward even more. Give it one. It's like literally feminine saying to masculine, like, give it one more punch. Give it one more. Give it one more, right? Because that's how you're gonna get it over the hill, right? Final card. And feminine almost saying, I'm telling you to do that because you taught me to do that. This is feminine reflecting the lesson to masculine. Masculine and feminine between our Page of Cups. Final card for today, Page of Cups in combination with our King of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card? We love it. We've got our Hierophant here. Hierophant in its upright. Masculine and feminine. In divine union, this is that moment that we're seeing that, again, it's fortifying, it's amplifying the commitment between the masculine and feminine energy. And it's leading, it's like that's the moment that's almost showing the difference between something that feels like it was a momentary desire versus a personal commitment. Because you know what the difference is between a commitment and a desire? A commitment, a desire is when you feel a lark for something. You can have a desire to have something to eat. You can have a desire for something. A commitment is when you do something and you don't feel like doing it anymore. And in those moments that it's hard, articulate and amplify the difference between a commitment versus just something that you're committed to. And what we see here for the energy right now in divine union, this is masculine learning the ability to stay committed on the journey of leading with the heart space, even when their confidence is flagging. Because this is almost feminine helping masculine through that and saying, yeah, I know your confidence is flagging. It gets harder to lead with your heart space when you feel vulnerable leading from your heart space. This is almost feminine saying to masculine, I know what to tell you to fix this. Give it more. Give it more emotional energy. Keep pushing forward in that way. Don't let your emotions change because of your confidence. That's what feminine can teach masculine. Don't let your confidence flag your emotions. Feminine is almost showing this to masculine right now, that's helping the masculine deepen on their path of commitment towards leading with the heart space in this way. Feminine is almost feeling the amplification of the divine union frequency in the masculine by seeing a masculine that's learning to do this more and more and more. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is the test. This is masculine, feminine looking at masculine and saying, can you recognize the difference between something that feels harmless that isn't going to be beneficial to the commitment? Can you feel the difference between having to navigate putting your own immediate needs aside for the preservation of what we're creating for ourselves right now? This is why we see time is working in the benefit right now of the energy that says, let it go. Don't take it. Don't take something here, because something can be harmless and still cause harm depending on the timing. And what we're effectively seeing here is feminine almost amplifying to masculine and saying, do you have that ability? Show me that you have that ability to stay committed to staying in the divine union's frequency, and recognizing that that's going to mean delayed gratification sometimes in terms of the things that you desire versus navigating towards staying in that frequency. Feminine is much more able to do this because feminine is very much doing this all the time. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. Some of the energy is in separation because masculine couldn't do this. And for the feminine energy right now, this is why we see that feminine energy has such a level or degree of frustration right now. And feminine's just returning that commitment to the self, because feminine feels to a certain extent that there's a feeling that there's masculine around them. There's a lot of masculine around them that can't keep their eye on the prize, or they think, or they're looking at the prize being in the bottom of a Cracker Jack box. Like, it's literally feminine looking at masculine, and it's like feminine's losing the confidence that masculine, this is masculine being like, do we even have the same script? Are we even looking at the same map? What are you doing? Where are you trying to go? Do you even know where you're trying to go? This is feminine almost feeling to a certain extent. This is feminine staying committed to their own self, because to a certain extent right now, and I'm sorry to say this, masculine, I'm just reading the cards. This is feminine that feels like they're kind of surrounded by fool energy. And I don't mean like fun fool. I mean like, what are you doing, fool energy? It feels like feminine is feeling the frustration of masculine that is chasing the wrong things, or does not have that bigger picture in mind. And this is why feminine's almost, again, that retreating moment is feminine almost saying, feminine's like, I got the map in here. I know where to go. I'm going to keep going in that way. I'm not going to let the energy around me get me off course from finding that place. This is feminine returning that energy to the self right now. Masculine energy and separation. This is that moment that if you're on your healing journey, you're finding feminine here. You're finding the feminine that, like, again, is almost very resistant to allowing some space or place for you to come towards them. Specifically because you see the fact that feminine feels like they're like immediately assuming the worst, if you will, on the masculine. But again, you almost recognize to a certain extent that, like, if the feminine is very guarded right now and doing their own thing, and there's a bunch of masculine chasing around with like jars trying to catch fireflies, like, it's almost that moment of being like, well, yeah, no wonder she feels like that. I used to do that too. I know a lot of people that are still doing that. And this is masculine almost trying to amplify if masculine's on the healing journey, trying to say to feminine, I am committed, but recognizing that that commitment doesn't mean like, I want to give you a ring. It means I am committed to showing you that I am not someone who gets distracted. I am committed to showing you that I don't go chasing shiny objects. I'm not like, I don't need to go chasing after every like butterfly. I know how to keep myself focused on what is important, which is the commitment. And masculine right now is trying to build that ability by showing feminine that they're not towards them from any other point than saying like, my fun is the commitment. This is where like that is the only fun I want. This is where the fun is. This is masculine being like, I figured out the fun. It's a fun is in the commitment here. And anything else was like a shiny object. So, bottom of the deck on this reading right now. Page of Wands. A lot of inner child healing that's coming into play right now. Masculine and feminine energy right now in divine union. There's a lot of inner child wounds coming to the surface. There's a lot of that deeper work that's happening right now has to do with navigating and healing a lot of this inner child energy. That's why we see that a lot of this path work right now is feeling so personal. That's why we see that so much of this energy feels like they're just giving that support, but saying, I can't help you here. I can't go back there with you. I can't do that. Because there's something about like being like, it's not even you who's doing this. It's that little child in you that needs this healing, right? I can give you that support, but like, we can't go back in there. Only you can guide that inner child into a space of healing. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is literally saying, have you healed your inner child? Because you know what an inner child can't do? An unhealed inner child cannot avoid a shiny object. An unhealed inner child cannot help but get distracted. We don't even get mad at them for getting distracted. That's what children do. When we're children, we do childlike things. We don't get mad if a child chases after every firefly. This is why the feminine energy is at that point of just kind of taking and leaving the masculine at this point, because this is feminine that's not even holding it against the masculine anymore. They're looking at the masculine and saying, if they're seeing masculine in that modality, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, this is feminine feeling the frustration and being like, oh my God, that's a child. This is a child. I can't even get mad because either the naivety or the flat right ignorance is articulating something. If you can't see this, then there's something that is amplifying that there's someone caught in that. Like, it's like, how do you get mad at a child? You're like, you can't. You just like, it just builds a frustration point because you're like, you don't even, like for feminine, this is why we see that the feminine is just like, that's why feminine's just like walking away, because feminine doesn't even want to argue with them because it feels like it would be arguing with a child. Masculine, if you're in this healing modality, this is the fact that you're doing this inner child work right now. You've been in it and you see it. And for the problem with the masculine, this is more of what we're seeing, that again, if you're just experiencing this right now, I got to stress. Funny thing with inner child work, I bet you thought when we said inner child work, we thought that we were talking about when you were like 6 or something. No, if you just came out of this, inner child work was whoever you were a day ago, because you've been letting that inner child make all the decisions. It's like you've been letting the inner child, the wounded inner child, drive the bus. Like, where's the wounded inner child been driving the bus? Oh, the wounded inner child like brought it to a liquor store, went to the toy store, went to the carnival. Feminine's like, that sounds shocking. I'm very surprised to hear that those are all the places your inner child took the car. Right? It's like, it's a moment that like masculine energy, having that moment is allowing you to do this path work because it's recognizing the inner child in you that's like, let's go do that. Let's do this. And being like, no, get back in the car. We're trying to get somewhere. We don't have time to keep hitting all of these rest stops. So again, working through this and trying to heal your own internal child is almost making you take accountability, because it's like, again, if you're doing this work well, you suddenly feel like you woke up and it's like your inner child was making all these decisions and now you found yourself here and now you got to tell everyone that everyone's healing. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please keep in mind when you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever reach out to you for a personal reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow. All right, my dears, we are going to get started on those personal readings.